Hello there! It's 2022 and also a Friday, which means it's definitely time once again for the best movie podcast ever, the only movie podcast to offer objective and hyperbole-free discussion of every movie in the known universe. I am your host for I was going to say new decade then, it's not a new decade, a new year. The podcast with no name, Konrad, and with me as always, he's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, is Anthony James.
It's about time. Toss a coin to me. Thank you.
I haven't watched that yet. I haven't watched it. I Netflix got no more of my blood money over the Christmas period. We talked about this, I believe, off air, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But my streaming subscription catalog reached critical mass, and I had to go through and be like, nope, Netflix, you're off.
Well, the thing is, you subscribe to more than I would. You subscribe still to a wrestling app, do you? You also subscribe to. There was another one you subscribed to which I didn't. Maybe Crunchyroll for a while. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I had Funimation for a while. I had Crunchyroll. Yeah. Those weren't on the docket at the moment, but I had Disney Plus, Prime, Netflix. I still use my dad's Sky account. So you get Now TV. Yes, I do.
Do you get movies and TV? Movies and TV on that package?
Yep. Oh yes. Oh yes. I need to have access to the wire at all times. That's the way I live.
I have to have access to Dark at all times. So that's why I can never get rid of Netflix. But Netflix and Disney Plus are the ones I pay for. Although I have access to nearly them all because we do a sharing system in our family.
Yeah, you steal.
So I only pay for two. No. You can have a number of devices. That is true. Also, I will say, Amazon Prime got completely mugged off by me recently. The way to hear this is, I don't know what the hell they were thinking. So every year, right, I accidentally logged out of Amazon Prime. Remember I told you that I logged out of it, and then I panicked, and I had to buy Westworld Season 1, right?
Yeah.
So I still haven't logged back into my brother-in-law's Amazon Prime. So now I own Westworld Season 1, 2, and 3. But I will say that Amazon Prime has been completely mugged off by me this time because they put up on their thing, they have football matches twice a year. Now, it just happened to be within a 30-day period. So lovely. I managed to see both of Manchester United matches on Prime for nothing because I did it in the 1-month free trial. Absolutely mugged off Amazon.
There you go. Suck it, Jeff Bezos. Complain about I to be fair, I've created this idea in my head that the CEOs of the streaming companies are complaining about us stealing by sharing accounts. I don't know if that's to be true, but I choose to paint them as pantomime villains because they do it themselves, to be honest.
What I would imagine is they'll let us do it until one of them has a monopoly, and then all of a sudden they'll start finding it, getting us and finding us and stuff.
Down on VPN.
But at the minute they're let them share it, let Amazon Prime spread,
Give them a little taste of The Witcher before we snatch it away. The keen-eared among you will of course have noticed that I mentioned Christmas in this introduction, and it ain't Christmas no mo. Christmas
6th of January. That's
6th of January.
Scott.
Yep, that's right. Oh wait, no, it'd be the 7th at the time of release. It's the 4th today. Let's be honest. Let's pull the curtain back once more. But either way, it's not Christmas. But we are gonna stay true to our roots, and we're going to strike at these hot topics several weeks after they have passed out the public eye.
That's the way.
We're talking about Christmas movies that aren't actually Christmas movies this week.
Yeah, non-Christmas movies. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll have a brief discussion before we get into it about what exactly that constitutes. And without further ado, I say, let's talk about some gosh darn movies.
Let's do it.
Movies. We're once again here to talk about them. It's a new year, it's a new us, but the same old conversation, quite frankly. I came to Anthony cap in hand this week and I said, we've got a few movies to talk about, but the Christmas period is for watching old beloved classics. I don't think there's many people who watch new movies over Christmas as a rule.
Unless you go into the cinema, I suppose. With more releases coming out on streaming services new, I suppose. But
I guess so. Yeah, I mean, 2 years ago, at the height of what I didn't realise at the time, but in retrospect was absolutely a very deep depression. I went by myself to watch Cats in the cinema on Christmas Eve.
Oh, yes.
I think there's one other person in the cinema at the time. It's an experience that I don't cherish. I'll say that much for it. But in the spirit of not watching new movies at Christmas, I thought what would be interesting to talk about this week is looking back, not just at this Christmas period past, but of all Christmas periods past for all time, essentially. Movies that we enjoy watching over the Christmas period that really don't have anything to do with Christmas, and I'd like to try and dress it up and say, oh, we're going to find a way to link these back to Christmas, but I think the reality for most of these is going to be we saw them over Christmas as kids and are nostalgic for them.
Yeah, well, to a certain extent, that is true. I've got one maybe entry that slightly gets rid of that theory, but it still is nowhere near Christmassy. It's I having you already told me which ones you've got, and knowing the ones I've got, I think there's already a theme. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah,
there's a real big theme.
Yeah.
To these type of films, and maybe we'll have a couple of ideas in our head that are different, but mostly, Conrad, it seems that huge series of big budget films are the theme. If you have if you have a big budget film which spans 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 films, this is the time of year. The
more movies in it, or the more hours consumed watching it, the more likely I am to lay on the sofa in a turkey-induced stupor and watch all of your movies without moving at any point. I will. I'm gonna possibly annoy some people here, but I can't, in good faith, have us enter into a conversation about Christmas movies without sort of addressing the elephant in the room, which is that we will not be discussing if Die Hard is a Christmas movie on this. That discussion is the Office is my favourite TV show of movie discussions. It's just, I can't have that discussion anymore. No one cares. It's not going to happen here.
Yeah, that's fine. The Office UK is a very good film, though. Good show, though, I will say.
They're both good shows. That's
they are
the
good.
Great tragedy of it. And Die Hard is a great film. Don't get me wrong. But it's kind of like a secret handshake for people who aren't actually into movies or television. They're just like, I'm just going to say this, and that's
it's just like some BuzzFeed reporter says, I need a Christmas article here that will get people talking. Is Die Hard a Christmas film? Every single year. It's
like a conversation I have with my drunken uncle, and who doesn't know anything about movies but remembers that from a tweet he saw 30 years ago. Okay,
30 years.
That's probably about how long Twitter's existed.
Literally a bird in his window saying Die Hard is a Christmas film.
Yeah. But without further ado, then, do you have anything that you wanted to add? Any confessions to make before we dive into this list of our non-Christmas Christmas movies?
No, any confessions? Jeez.
Well, just in case you want to get ahead of any of these.
I haven't been to confession since, I don't know, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. It has been 22 years since my last confession.
So a couple of Hail Marys. Hail Marys? What are they called?
Well, it depends what you're the father in this respect, so you would give me Our Fathers or Hail Marys or whatever you want me to say. As my penance, but not a very big penance, to be honest. Yeah, but at the same time, I have no regrets in terms of what I watch over Christmas. You know me, Conrad. I will go to bat for independent films as well as corporations. I don't like corporations, but some of the films they put out are good. Let's just say.
Yep, that's true. Okay, fine. Well, with clear consciences and hearts full of love, we move into these non-Christmas Christmas movies.
Bloody Cosette over here.
I'm saying nothing in response to that. Okay, I'm going to start things off, and I'm going to pitch an idea to you here, and that is that all James Bond movies are in effect Christmas movies, non-Christmas Christmas movies. But I actually don't see. You grew up in different countries to me, so I don't know whether this was the case in Australia or the Republic of Ireland or in Northern Ireland. I guess it would be in Northern Ireland because we all pretty much have the same terrestrial TV growing up.
Yeah.
But certainly on like the BBC, or it would have probably been more ITV in England, there was always Bond movies on over Christmas. And I associate, particularly like the Roger Moore and the Sean Connery ones.
Yes.
I associate all of those with Christmas.
Well, Roger Moore ones definitely. I remember I watched. Can I say this on YouTube? I don't know. I watched Octopussy first time around Christmas.
It's fine. As long as you say it fast enough, so that the double entendre is not immediately obvious.
Yeah, I watched that one, the little plane where he has to fill up at a petrol station at the start. I watched that one quite a bit over Christmas. So actually, I think you're right. I never thought about that actually. For me though, the only true Christmas James Bond is Pierce Brosnan. Like, let's be honest. Like the velvety tones of a Pierce Brosnan singing SOS. I mean, even when you watch James Bond now, you can't get it out of your mind.
What was that from? Is that from Mamma Mia?
Yeah. my younger brother is not a fan of musicals, but then whenever he sees me listening to Les Mis or something, he's like, "What do you listen to that for?" And then he'll walk away going, "SOS."
I mean, say what you will about Mamma Mia, which I've never actually seen, to be fair, but ABBA's music is beyond reproach as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, yes. If he's chosen one musical to like, he's chosen a good one. Let's be honest.
Exactly. I will say, actually, it's funny you mention Pierce Brosnan because although my Christmas love affair with James Bond, which has waned a bit in recent years, I will admit, but it definitely reached fever pitch in the Christmas of 1998 when we spent Christmas Eve playing a bunch of GoldenEye multiplayer on my friend's N64 before then coming home to be given it as a Christmas present the next day.
Oh, brilliant.
And that was before I'd even seen the movie.
The little cardboard box, you can't beat it.
I was having it. This is a complete tangent. I apologise to the listeners for this, but I'll be done briefly. Just bear with me for 1 second. I was having a conversation with some parents recently about like how when you buy kids consoles now, you need to like install the console ahead of time because you've got to install a bunch of like firmware updates and patches for the games and all that. And I was thinking back to like watching my dad set up the N64 on the big TV with like Diddy Kong Racing, and it probably took no more than half an hour. But at the time, I was like, "This is interminable. This has taken far too long." And now, kids are lucky if they get to play a game the same day that they get their console. I think
that is nuts. Actually, like because I got my wife I got my wife Just Dance for 2022 version for Christmas, and we did it for we were singing from the chandeliers and all that sort of stuff. But the last Friday night, it must have been. But that's also a song in the game. But so anyway, I plugged it in, and it took 45 minutes to download it to the console. I was like, what's the point of having the little card in the Switch? If
none whatsoever. None whatsoever.
Making us do
this. The cards, as one might suspect from Switch games, don't actually hold very much data on them. The rest of it is all up in their clouds.
Having said that, I'll never stop buying them because they are awesome. I just love having a collection of Nintendo games of whatever console it is. Like, that is so cool. I just love and they know it too. I know they know it, but I just love the way that they package their games and like the little cards they are. I just love collecting them.
Well, I mean, they are useful for collecting, also useful for selling on if you don't want them anymore. Can't do that with digital games. But yes, so GoldenEye, particularly Christmassy for me. I love that game. I also big shout out to, and I will be honest, I had to look these up because I haven't seen them in so long. But The Spy Who Loved Me, the one that ends with like a big submarine fight where he frees a bunch of sailors at the end. And You Only Live Twice, the incredibly racist one where Sean Connery portrays a Japanese man by doing something to his eyebrows.
I don't think I've seen that one.
That has a big like ninja fight at the end, and I think what I learned looking back through the sort of pantheon of Bond movies that I loved over Christmas is that just the ones with the big fights at the end, like a big bass and a big fight. That's what I need from my Bond movies.
That's what Bond's about. Big bases, big bases.
Exactly.
You need the scene where the bad guy should have killed James Bond but didn't. You need that scene. If you've got that scene, a big base and a big fight, you've got a Bond film, really.
Yeah, a bad guy with a name like Scaramanga as well. Like that's that's what we need. Okay, well that's enough about James Bond. I could go on about him all day, but enough's been said about him. What have you brought to the table for us for this prestigious topic?
Okay, so I think this next one, in people of my generation, you've missed it. You've missed this boat, Konrad. You have caught up now, but I don't know if it'll be nostalgic for you. And I don't know how to talk about this without mentioning. Now, I thought of this earlier. I couldn't say it without saying it's a pun incoming. I don't know how to talk about this without talking about She Who Must Not Be Named. But thank you. That's of course Harry Potter. Harry Potter, I think, for a lot of people, is a big Christmas one. Keeping with the theme, obviously, of big, long series of films.
There's a lot of Christmassy stuff in that, though, isn't there?
Well, obviously, most of the films take place over a school year.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a Christmas part of the film.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily
They go down to the fucking village. What's it called? And drink at the Hog's Head.
Hogsmeade.
Hogsmeade.
Is that the name of the village? Hogsmeade?
I think the village is Hogsmeade. I can't remember what the pub is called where they get their cider or whatever it is they drink.
The Flying Whoobie you call it. But I think Aberforth Dumbledore works in the pub down there. That's all I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that for nothing. But yeah, so Harry Potter was a big one for me growing up. I do. This is so strange to say, but I am one of the people who started reading books when I started reading Harry Potter. And the reason for that is when the first one came out. What was it, like 2001? So I was
97, I think, the first Harry Potter came out.
Maybe it was.
Or what movie do you mean? Or
the movie, I'm talking about the movie, yeah.
Oh, the movie, I think, was 2001, yeah.
Yeah. So I remember when I first, maybe I mentioned this podcast before, but when the first trailer of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone came out, and that is Philosopher's Stone, American listeners, I don't know why
What's
they
it
changed
called
that.
over there?
Sorcerer's Stone.
Oh, the Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah, like we can't have our population knowing about philosophy, that's for sure. But basically, my dad, my dad was a real gruff man, but he was very smart. Didn't finish school, dropped out, became an electrician. Eventually ran a big business selling mobile phones. But for some reason, he just really respected the book form over the film. I don't know why.
Okay.
So he as soon as the first trailer of Harry Potter came out, he was like, he made us all read the book before we saw the film.
Nice.
Yeah. So probably my first leisurely read rather than something my school told me to read when I was probably 9 or 8 or 9. So I do credit, which is interesting because apparently the statistics show that even though Harry Potter got a lot of kids into reading, it didn't actually eventually lead on to them reading other things. But I am one of the ones that maybe did lead on to me reading other things.
I think that's often a stick, and I say this as somebody who doesn't particularly like the Harry Potter books, maybe because I tried reading them when I was a little bit too old for them, and I didn't enjoy them.
You had to grow with them. You had to grow with them.
Yeah, but I think that's a stick that's often used to beat that series. But ultimately, I think having read Harry Potter and nothing else is better than never having read at all. So I think
that is true. That is true.
I will also actually just say, because you snuck something very, very coyly in there at the beginning of that, which was to imply that there is some kind of generational gap between you and me, there.
No, that's why no, sorry, I didn't mean it like that. I meant
you all heard it, listeners.
Yeah, no, you all, but if you go back and listen to it, listeners, exactly 1 minute 55 seconds before. But what I actually said was our generation, meaning you and me.
That's not what he said.
I said our generation, and then I said, but it skipped you by, Konrad. Meaning you weren't involved in it, right? So we are in the same generation, but you didn't get involved in it, and we all know why, Konrad. It's because you're petty that you didn't get the role of Harry Potter.
Yeah, I mean that is notwithstanding the generational comment, which I resent. That is true. I am incredibly petty about that, and will to my dying day insist that I would have been a better Harry Potter than Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah. Oh, that is fantastic.
That's great. I'm like, as I get older and older, I'm becoming acutely aware that I'm becoming like Uncle Rico in Napoleon Dynamite. Just rehashing these past glory, or not even a past glory, like a failure that I've turned into a glory in my mind.
Used to be able to throw a golden snitch quarter mile. But one little Harry Potter tangent here before we move on, because I think everyone agrees Harry Potter films sort of fit the non-Christmas Christmas.
Oh, film. They do. Yeah, I would say so.
One little tangent is you live in Northern Ireland now, Konrad, and if there's one thing. Is I think the young Zoomers are calling it chuggy.
Yeah, I learned that word 1 week ago.
Yeah, so let's be chuggy and talk about what chuggy means, right? So apparently,
I need to look up the Guardian article that taught me what it means now.
So apparently it's kind of you would say boomer, meaning like a boomer.
Okay.
So basically chuggy is like our generation, but it's like we're like old now, so the Zoomers say, oh, that's so chuggy, so for example, I heard that liking Friends is chuggy, right?
I would agree with that. Yeah.
But I would say that Harry Potter is the Friends of the fantasy world,
Yeah, well, okay, that's That's a potential. This entire conversation is potentially going to put like a dagger through my heart, because I think without I don't necessarily want to leave Harry Potter behind just yet, because there's probably some other stuff to say on that. But in a similar vein to in fact, these were literally coming out at the same time. It was like one of this and then one of this. My kind of definitive Christmas non-Christmas movies are the Lord of the Rings films, and I wonder if that has also now been kind of relegated to the "this is for old people" bin now.
Potentially, but I would think that the Lord of the Rings films are a cut above, to be honest with you, and they will stand the test of time as being of high quality. I will say that I saw something interesting recently. I think maybe even Ema told me this, but apparently that they looked at like on average what like the comfort films which again our generation, like millennials, go to comfort themselves, just like to be in a safe sort of place to watch a film and have the nostalgia and all that sort of thing. And for men of our generation, it was Star Wars. I think that kind of makes a little bit of sense on the average, really. And interestingly, for women of our generation, the number one film they go to is Lord of the Rings.
Oh, well, there you go.
Isn't that interesting?
I mean, there's more. That is interesting, because Lord of the Rings is a very kind of there are female characters in it, but it's a very male-centric story as well. I think there's only really Arwen and I've already forgotten the character's name. That's awful. The King of Rohan's daughter. Those are really the only female characters I can think of. That and Galadriel, I suppose.
Éomer and who's the other one?
That's it. Yeah,
Éomer's the fella, isn't it? He's the guy.
No,
he's the son. Éowyn,
one of them's Éowyn and one of them's Éomer, and it's these fucking Saxon names. You can't keep them straight.
Well, I would say like the main storyline of like Frodo and Sam. Is now I say this with 100%. I say this with 100% respect and actually admiration. I think there is a feminine quality to it, and I am a man who thinks that male and female people have feminine and masculine qualities with them. I think rather than being like a macho dude bro, like it's like I'm going to talk about a film shortly probably where it's like basically a buddy film, right? This is not a buddy film. This is like a romance between Frodo and Sam, you know? If
you watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and I mean this sincerely, like I think a lot of people kind of approach this in like a kind of comedic, they didn't mean it to, but it kind of came across that way of sense. I genuinely think if you watch the Lord of the Rings movies and don't see a kind of latent romanticism in the relationship between Frodo and Sam, I don't know what movie you're watching, because it's know there's very clearly if not a romantic bond, then an incredibly profound emotional bond between those two characters.
Do you understand what I mean by like that sort of relationship in a film is portraying a positive feminine quality? Do I come across as a bit out of touch saying that? I think I want to make sure people understand what I mean is we as a society have said this is masculine, this is feminine, and this one is a good one. I like This is,
I think it's definitely neither of them are particularly like kind of hyper masculine characters. So I think a depiction of a healthy relationship between two men that is presented with those qualities.
Just a positive relationship is feminine, is what I'm saying. Men can't have positive relationships in film mostly.
Men talk about football and violence and women. That's all we talk about at all times.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, Lord of the Rings for me, I watched the first two this Christmas. I didn't watch the Return of the King because time got away from me, but I will watch it at some point in the coming weeks, because I need to finish it. Unfortunately as well, I had to commit the ultimate sin of I recently gave away my extended editions on DVD because I bought myself the Blu-ray and then realised only too late that the Blu-ray I own does not include the extended editions, which means I had to watch the baby version, the baby 3-hour-long versions for children, rather than the extended editions, which are, regardless of what Peter Jackson might say about them, the definitive versions of those movies.
Peter Jackson showed himself to be a fool in the end, let's be honest.
It's the only time I've disagreed. Literally every director I've ever heard of will be like, no, the director's cut is the one you should watch. That's my vision for the film. Peter Jackson says, no, don't watch the extended edition, watch the regular ones. And you're an idiot, Peter Jackson. All right, I need to see all of it. Okay, I need to see more of the Ninth Age or whatever the thing with but with the big battle with Sauron before Lord of the Rings takes place.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I think I've seen at least 2 of the extended editions. I don't actually know if I've seen all 3, and I couldn't even tell you which ones I've seen, to be honest with you.
Okay. They're all great. They're all great, but I didn't see them.
But what I will tell you is the first DVD my family ever owned was Lord of the Rings: Fellowship of the Ring.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, and I think they all came out. This is the one. I don't know about the DVDs actually. This was going to be a nice segue.
1 year after the other, didn't they? Yeah.
Well, they did, but I think the DVDs would have been middle of the year. But I think the reason I consider these Christmas movies is because they all came out in December. So Fellowship was the 11th. Two Towers was 12th, and Return of the King was the 17th of 2001, 2002, and 2003 respectively. And I have a feeling, I didn't check this, but I have a feeling the Harry Potter films, certainly the first 3, came out round about the same time as well.
Yeah, November was the first one, so probably they did actually. Yeah.
Okay. And there's a lot of trees in them. Trees are Christmassy.
That's true.
In a manner of speaking. Okay, what have you got next then? I've done my Lord of the Rings bit. I've said my piece.
Right. So I mentioned before that I was going to maybe mention a not buddy cop, just a buddy film, and
sure.
We were talking about this, I think, in our first ever episode of the Best Movie Podcast ever, where we've laid down the top 10 films of all time, definitively.
Yeah, got that out
definitively.
Nice
and that is, of course, Toy Story. Now,
lovely, yeah.
This actually, I could, to be honest with you, now as a father, I could put down every Disney film ever because we basically get through them all. But Toy Story is one that sort of stands test of time for me in terms of my own watching, I suppose.
Yeah.
It does end in Christmas in the first film, so you could maybe say that that's a little connection. But overall, for me, I just think it's a really, especially the first film, it's a real sort of trip down memory lane for me. And if Christmas is for anything, it's for nostalgia. I know the Hollywood has sort of commandeered nostalgia 100% and put it into new projects, but
one might say weaponized nostalgia.
Yeah, the best nostalgia for me still is when you watch something that you did watch when you were a child of your own accord, not when you're shown it in a new film. That's the best nostalgia for me, is when you actually seek it out yourself. And just like I did a few weeks ago when I first watched that Chevy Chase film Man of the House again for the first time in 25 years.
Yeah,
I did it with Toy Story as well.
I mean, you can't ask for much more than that with Toy Story, really. And I think like Toy Story, certainly, even if it didn't come out around Christmas, or even if it doesn't really contain any kind of overt nods to Christmas, definitely like the spirit of giving and like the magic of toys coming to life is certainly one. I mean, that's, it's in the Nutcracker. Like there's plenty of Christmas stories that utilize those kind of plot points to tell fun stories. I think it's.
You mentioned the Nutcracker. That's hilarious. My son was running around today with our Nutcracker, like from our Christmas decorations.
Okay.
And his legs fell off. So it's funny that he was running around going, Dad, can you fix Mr. Cracker? Right? And I personally thought this hilarious because for obvious historical reasons, but also because my son somehow, as a 3.5-year-old, gave this man the first name Nut.
Yeah, well, I mean...
Nutcracker.
That's great. It sounds like a kind of an old like Australian prospector, just like just a kind of wild-eyed mountain man who lives like off of a town in sort of 19th century Australia.
That's amazing. Yeah,
you want to go take that to Nutcracker? He'll show you the way. I apologise for that awful Australian accent. I will say though, it is justified in the sense that my partner made me sit down and watch a good portion of Baz Luhrmann's Australia fairly recently, and holy shit, does that movie suck?
Yeah, that's not a good film.
It's so long.
I made it through it the first time, potentially for the I like the Australian outback aesthetic, but yeah, it's not a good film. I
didn't mind. Like, I thought the movie was going to end with the cattle drive. I was like, they've got the cattle into the pen. It's a feel good thing. It wasn't the best movie, but all right. And then they do a whole World War II sequence.
They literally were like, well, we're making a film set in the Northern Territory. We may as well show it getting bombed, because you know what, Australia doesn't. Probably Baz Luhrmann was like, Australia doesn't get enough credit for actually being bombed in World War II. We need to put this in a film, no matter how stupid it seems.
Yeah, we need our own version of Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, speaking of bombing things, I'm going to go through these quite quickly because I have just made fun of Hollywood for weaponizing nostalgia, and both of these movie series have absolutely emphatically fallen victim to it, but I'm going to mention them anyway. And I think these are going to... I would be surprised if these haven't popped up in your Christmas watchings at some point in your life, as they have for many people, I'm sure. And that is Star Wars and Indiana Jones. Movies that, as you said, I tend to be quite skeptical of nostalgia, but having said that, there is no better feeling than just kind of curling up under a blanket and accidentally watching all of the original trilogy of Star Wars or watching a couple of Indiana Jones movies, I think. And yeah, they absolutely still have that effect on me. I for Star Wars, I saw them in a weird order. I saw Return of the Jedi first, then Empire Strikes Back, and then A New Hope. So I really didn't understand what was happening for most of it. But
well, it's still good though. That's what I love about those original three films, is they actually do have a start, middle, and end of each three of the parts. I think anyway. Yeah. But my order that I saw Star Wars was crazy.
Go on. Is this going to include the prequels?
Oh, of course it is. I watched, because I am a true millennial, Conrad.
Yeah, sure.
You're
deeply invested in the re-evaluation.
I think it probably just shows how early you were on the internet. You know what I mean? You were already on the internet, going on forums saying Phantom Menace is crap.
Oh, absolutely! You know? I was deeply invested in that.
Whereas I wasn't like that. I was just a little plucky-eyed kid going. My dad was taking me to see Star Wars, and so Phantom Menace was clearly the first one I saw.
Right.
Qui-Gon Jinn, you forever in my heart. Then
gone but not forgotten.
Yeah, you know.
The big man
obviously,
upstairs.
We've got some problematic statements from Liam Neeson in the last few years, but Qui-Gon Jinn...
He was of a different generation, Anthony. You can't blame him.
Qui-Gon Jinn was the man. Now, Qui-Gon Jinn, Darth Maul was cool, you have to admit that. But then episode 1, episode 2, then for some reason we decided to go and watch the original trilogy between Attack of the Clones, probably the sand scene that inspired us. Then we saw the third one. Funny story about the third one. My dad took us to see that. We went to see all three. The third one came out when we were living in Ireland at that point, and I remember my dad fell asleep in the cinema and was snoring his head off, and we were like, Dad, can you stop snoring, right? And he got up and he went to the car and he sat in the car and waited on us. Slept in the car while we were in the cinema.
Unbelievable. Oh. Did he not find any joy in that final? I mean, I know a lot of people.
He didn't even make it to the final lightsaber battle.
But not even the final lightsaber battle. The bit with the that thing's operational, dun, 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 and they're all pulling up as the shield is revealed, and there's a bunch of Star Destroyers behind them. Oh, that's good.
I think to be honest with you, my dad was always a bit bored by child execution. And
okay, sure.
That's the part that put him to sleep.
Oh wait, no, hold on. You're talking about Revenge of the Sith here, aren't you?
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi. Okay, yeah, I'm with him. I'm back with him.
So he fell asleep, whereas we were all like, "Oh my god, a 70-minute lightsaber battle! This is amazing!"
I could not get past them calling the children younglings. At no point could I move past that. It's just the stupidest word.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I probably would go as far to say I'm a big fan of the prequels, not because I think they're great films, but because that nostalgia feeling. But yeah. I think Star Wars is a good one. I think again it fits the bill, doesn't it, of a long running series
and it's like Harry Potter in that I'm pretty sure John Williams did the score for at least a few of the Harry Potter films. I might be wrong about that. Let me know if I'm wrong about that. But I think John Williams
would be surprised if he did. Now he might have. I just don't know if She Who Must Not Be Named's rule that only people from the British Isles should be involved in the making of it extended to the score.
Let's have a look. So he was the composer of the first 3 films and creator of Hedwig's theme. So he didn't do all the films, but he did. Okay. But I mean,
that makes sense. Chris Columbus got him on board.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, my point was going to be that if John Williams is doing the music to your movie, there's a good chance that you've made a Christmas movie, even if you didn't realize it. I think it's safe to say. Obviously, not like Schindler's List, but
yeah. Well, there is sadness at Christmas too.
Maybe not that much.
And I think Oscar Schindler is a real life hero.
That's true. Yeah.
Whereas other people who we celebrate at Christmas may not be. But what I'll say is that I didn't actually know until you said that John Williams did that. what is with John Williams and being able to come up with an iconic main theme? Like, how does he do it?
I mean, it is uncanny. It is uncanny. There's two parts of me when it comes to John Williams. There's the part that absolutely loves most of the music that he does. I'm always just like, well, this is just great. And there's the other part of me that's like, well, this is very derivative of romantic era composers, which is true. It is true. But at the, you listen to like Rachmaninoff's Second Piano Concerto and be like, well, this is quite similar to a lot of what John Williams did. But it doesn't change the fact that, if it was that bloody easy, every film composer would do it. And unfortunately, there's only like a handful, certainly in Hollywood, who've actually managed to do it with the same skill that John Williams has. It is unbelievable, the consistency with which he churns out absolute bangers.
Yeah, it's not. Yes, exactly. It's not even just that he has all those reminiscent elements to whatever you just said, but he also has like like in pop music they have like the earworm, like the main sort of hook. He is able to churn them out for like, give him like, any project that comes out. If John Williams was able to score it, right? If he could score any, like, I'm going to do a series of films here. It's based on a wizard doing this. He would be able to make an iconic tune that everyone recognize. Yeah. It could be put in a general population pub quiz and everyone would get it. I don't understand how he does it time and time again.
Yeah. I mean, people complain or make fun of them because the Superman theme, the Star Wars theme, and the Indiana Jones theme are kind of similar to each other. But there's only so many.
Who complains, Konrad? Who complains
I don't
about
know,
that?
like people out
no
there.
One complains
in the
about
world.
that. No one complains about
Let me do the standard internet thing of inventing someone who holds a point of view I disagree with, so I can get angry about them.
You got to straw that man. Straw that man, Konrad.
I need to have this in my life so I can feel intelligent. But no, I mean, the thing that is impressive about John Williams, beyond what you've just said there, is the fact that I think more than any other composer of film, maybe of music, or non-pop music, is that you could go to most people on the street and be like, hum the theme to Star Wars, and they'd be able to do it, or like hum the theme to Superman. And like, even though there've been like 75 Superman movies since John Williams scored one, his is still the definitive theme for it. It's it's unbelievable, and his music can elevate a movie. I wonder if it is like partially a quality that his music is so good that it just makes it very easy to be nostalgic for it, even if it's not kind of explicitly a Christmas movie, and that kind of ties into that Christmassy feeling.
Yeah, potentially. It just shows you how good he is, that when I think to myself, like, Pirates of the Caribbean, who did that? I was like, must be John Williams. Actually, it's Hans Zimmer.
It is
Hans Zimmer,
so like,
so it's like all like the little earwig ones I always think is him. But so there you go. But brilliant. Star Wars is a good shot.
I will very quickly, because I haven't mentioned it at all. I will just mention Indiana Jones here as well. Just to say that there was a not inconsiderate period of my youth where Indiana Jones was my hero, and I wanted to grow up to be him. So obviously, it had a big effect on me. Watching him and Marcus and his dad ride off into the sunset at the end of Last Crusade it filled me with a tremendous amount of nostalgia, and that was the last Indiana Jones film they ever made. So what a fitting end to the Indiana Jones.
It was a terrible shame that they put Harrison Ford in a fridge and blasted him across the desert for no reason. They should have at least released a film around that.
Yeah, but he said, "This is how I want to go," and they locked him in that fridge and they fired him across the desert in Nevada or wherever that was. And
Area 51, I think, is Nevada, maybe Arizona.
Yeah, it was Area 51, wasn't it? Yes. And that was the end of that. There were no more Indiana Jones films after that. I can't believe they're still making a fifth one, to be honest.
I every single time it comes, like, even after the fourth one, they were talking about rebooting it, and like, who's going to be, Chris Pratt's going to be the next Indiana Jones.
I was hard on the Chris Pratt should be Indiana Jones wagon, and I look back now and I'm like, thank God I don't commission movies or cast movies.
And I hear he wasn't even going to do an Italian accent for it.
Why even take the part if you're not going to be faithful to Harrison Ford's
original? Jared Leto is Mario. Get it going.
Finally someone says it. Okay, I've got one more that I'm going to talk about, but it's going to be very quick. Have you got any others that you'd like to speak about?
I've got one or two that I'm going to mention, but then I've got, like, the last one I'll talk about. It's going to be, again, very quick. I just wanted to mention.
Okay, well, you go through yours.
Okay, so obviously everyone knows of this channel that I love, We Bought a Zoo. I want to get some sort of reaction video in the future of Konrad and I watching that. Even though we've both seen it before, I want to make him watch it again.
Yeah.
So that's one I watch all the time at Christmas time, just because it's my favorite movie. It's my favorite family movie, so it makes sense I'll watch it at Christmas time. Then I've also got obviously Back to the Future, which we've talked about on this podcast many times before. Big fan of time travel. Back to the Future is a big nostalgic one. The one I wanted to talk about, which is a bit sort of out of left field, ironically saying that considering that Marvel films got 30% of the box office of last year.
I could not believe that when I could believe it, but I was also just like, oh no, we're in trouble, guys.
That was pretty bad, and I was like, why did we not all learn the valuable lesson of Monopoly at a young age? Anyway, my point is that Marvel films have become this sort of thing for me, and I'll tell you why. Because as a teacher, in the run up to Christmas time, now I don't choose to put these on. I just will say to you, but other teachers, whenever on the run up, they say to the boys, right, boys, I'm marking your tests here. Everyone's done this. Everyone's been in school at this time of year. Marking your tests here. I'm going to put a movie on for you. What do you want to watch?
Yeah.
And they all want to watch Marvel films. So when they come into my class and I'm going to put a movie on, they say, "Sir, we're 3/4 of the way through Iron Man. Can we finish it?" So then I'm like, "All right." So then so basically the last sort of 4 or 5 years working in secondary school, I have been watching a lot of Marvel films at Christmas time because of that.
Right.
So that's why Marvel films are sort of Christmassy to me now. Once the school season ends, then I don't think I've watched any Marvel films myself over Christmas this year, except obviously Spider-Man because I went to see it in the cinema. But I don't think I've watched any myself. But in school I have done so.
Well, Spider-Man, mentioning it briefly, is probably going to be like that nostalgic Star Wars kind of movie for a generation of kids based on how many people saw it. But that's interesting. I remember when I was in school, when we got things put on, it would be like my German teacher putting on Das Boot or like a Gladiator or something that you can pretend is like historical. Is sort of.
Well, I'm talking about proper dead time at the end of the term when everyone's got something different to be doing, and most of the pupils aren't there.
Okay. I suppose you could put on like Thor and claim it's like a religious studies thing. Be like,
yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I actually have thought to myself as the maths teacher, maybe I'll whenever we used to do space when I taught science, I used to put The Martian on. I used to love it, but I thought to myself I could put on like A Beautiful Mind or like Good Will Hunting or something for maths, But then I was like, there's not really any way to justify putting a maths film on it. You know what I mean?
Put on The Imitation Game. Just teach them about code breaking the Nazis. That'd be great.
I mean, technically, like that is what maths should be, but it is just all so centered around exams that you couldn't get away with doing it.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'll tell you what was the name of that time travel movie we watched that was great about the two people who like invent a time machine. It was like a really low budget thing.
Oh yeah.
I've completely forgotten that. I feel really bad about it because it was a great movie.
Ask me any other day, and I would have remembered that.
I was literally reading about it a couple of weeks ago because someone brought it up. And it's
Why can I not remember this? I'm blanking so hard.
But show them that. Show them. I suppose that'd be more of a science kind of physicsy kind of film. But you've got all these options available to you. What I'm saying is stop poisoning your children's minds with Marvel. Everyone. No, that's a joke. Marvel's fine. We're doing fine. I like Marvel movies just fine.
I am Googling this. We are going to have it. But yes, I agree with you. I do agree with you.
I'm just gonna
Primer.
That was it. That's a great movie.
What is wrong with me? Jesus.
Show that to your physics class and be like, listen, you could do this. You could break reality as we know it with a simple set of scraps and some, I don't know, screws from your job that you do and a garage. That's all you need. Okay, right. Well, so I'm just going to mention one last film very quickly then,
cool.
Which is a film that I'm confident basically no one who is listening to this will have seen because I've literally never met another person who's seen this movie. It is 1985's Adventures of Hercules, starring runner-up Mr. Universe and the incrediblest of Hulks, Lou Ferrigno, as the titular Hercules. It's an Italian film, sort of Italian. It was made by an Italian crew, but filmed in, I don't actually know where it was filmed. I don't think it was filmed in America, but Lou Ferrigno was in it anyway. Directed by a guy called Luigi Cozzi, who used the pseudonym Lewis Coates. And he directed a couple of movies that I love called, Contamination and Star Crash, which are like awful alien rip-offs in Italian cinema, and worked with Dario Argento on a movie called Phenomena. And it is the best Hercules movie ever made. It is dreadful. There's a bit where he fights a lightning man, and then he kills Medusa, and then he fights like cyberpunk robot monsters, and it's fucking brilliant. It is
right. Well, that sounds good. That sounds good.
It is so good, this movie, and the only reason I associate it with the Christmas is because my dad recorded it as he liked to do onto VHS around Christmas time, and I watched it. It's nothing to do with. I mean, maybe Hercules probably enjoyed Christmas like in some ways. I mean, I appreciate that he was around before the birth of Christ, but like,
he would have enjoyed the event of the birth of whatever Messiah or whatever, you know.
Yeah,
I suppose he's like sort of a demigod, isn't he? What is he?
Yeah. He's
so
the
his
son
own
of
birth
Zeus
is a Christmas of sorts.
Exactly. So I don't know when Hercules was born, but maybe he was the original Bible story. We simply don't have enough information.
We don't know. Yeah.
That's probably blasphemous what I've said there, but never mind.
You know.
But if
listen, Willem Dafoe playing Jesus is the most blasphemous you can get. So if that's in the world, we can say what we want.
I've not seen The Last Temptation of Christ. I've owned that movie for over a year now and still not gotten around to watching it. It's one of my many film purchasing failings. Anything else that you would like to add then to this pretty illustrious list, I have to say?
I mean, it is big budget galore. To be honest with you, I suppose like just comedy films, you know, like I suppose I would watch Mel Brooks films.
Okay.
Maybe back in the day, maybe I would have watched some Adam Sandler stuff.
Blazing Saddles is always a good shout.
Blazing Saddles. Men in Tights is my go-to because that has nostalgia for me. The other ones, I watched the rest of his catalogue when I was sort of early 20s. Yeah. The Men in Tights one is the one that has nostalgia for me, so that's one I would probably go to the most.
Yeah, you shouldn't really be showing Blazing Saddles to children.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't. Well, I don't show Men in Tights to children either. But you know,
yes.
There's some unfortunate silhouette images in that film. Well, that's all I'll say. But yeah. So probably comedies, Mel Brooks and stuff. You know.
Okay. Well, there you go. What better season for them than the season of giving? Laughs in this case.
Yeah, give me your laughs.
Okay, well, I mean, it's kind of a bit of a nebulous one, but we're going to answer it as we do every week, and that is the question: what is your favourite movie this week, Anthony?
Well, considering it's the first episode of the year, I'm going to say what my favourite movie is this week, but it actually just means my favourite movie of the whole year last year. And that is, because you reminded me of its existence, even though I was listening to it in my car yesterday, Bo Burnham's Inside. And yes, it does count as a movie.
Lovely. I just finished my Letterboxd top 10 last week, actually, and that did get my number one spot as well, so that's what I'm going to say. But my other top three were Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar and The Matrix Resurrections, which we may talk about at some point in the future on this very show. So keep your eyes
I will be
peeled
seeing
for
it
that.
soon. Konrad highly recommends it, even though it's being panned. I think
it's not being panned. It's divisive. It's divisive.
Which I like a divisive film, and all I could see that it was failing. And Konrad has let me know one or two themes, which no spoilers, but one or two themes which may be present, which make me think that maybe I will like it, even though the box office is not.
I hope you. I mean, I hope at the very least, I hope people go and see it because it's doing some interesting stuff with the nature of nostalgia and sequels, which I really enjoyed. I think your enjoyment of it will vary largely depending on how much you're okay with hearing very clearly the voice of the author speaking through the piece, because it's not subtle, I'll say. Which,
it's a little bit Catcher in the Rye-ish, is it?
Yeah, a little bit. But I mean, I happen to agree with everything that it was saying. So I was like, cool, yeah, go for it, Wachowski sisters. Okay, right. Well, so that is going to lead us quite nicely into. No, it's going to lead us into our outro. I don't know what I'm talking about. I was getting ready to segue into something. It is leading nicely into the outro. We're in it. We've made it to the outro. So thank you to Nancy Wyatt and Jared Iscariot for the use of our theme song. Check out links to their stuff down in the description below. If you haven't already, check out the latest episode. I need to remember to promote stuff on our channel. Check out the latest episode of Bad Guy Breakdowns on the channel. It's on The Matrix, which might be an indication, as I've already hinted. It's an upcoming BMP future episode. And also, Anthony did a very good a video on a look forward, which I haven't actually even watched. I haven't watched this. A look forward on the new Jan Fries and Baron Bioda series 1899, which is doing gangbusters. The people are talking about it. So if you want to get involved
Everywhere
in that conversation,
I can't get out to dinner with the family.
he can't get out the door. He can't leave the house. So please check those out. That's the Culture Cave on our YouTube channel. And thank you to you for joining us in this exciting new year. We'll be doing plenty more of these, so stick with us. Please consider subscribing. As I said, we are the Culture Cave on YouTube. We're the best movie podcast ever on podcasting apps. Get involved in the comments. Let us know what you watched over the Christmas period. And we will see you same time, same place next week.
Happy New Year.
That's great.